Hi, Miss Betts. How are you?
I'm well. How are you?
I'm doing good. Can you tell me a little bit about yourself?
Sure. Well, my name is Catherine Betts, and I am originally from Memphis, Tennessee, but have lived in a variety of places and now reside here in Ohio and work in the Multicultural Center at Ohio State University. I grew up primarily in Memphis, Tennessee, Little Rock, Arkansas, and in California. I identify as a person who is African American, a woman. I do identify as a person with a disability. I am classified as being legally blind. I was raised, kind of learning how to navigate life as a African American woman, but an African American woman who is also visually impaired or may be considered to be blind. So I think all of those identities had a major impact on how I grew up, what my experiences were growing up, and, even into my adult career as well.
All right, thank you. Can you tell me a little bit about your family?
Sure. I grew up mostly being raised by my mother. My mother and my father divorced when I was 1, and it was kind of an interesting dynamic in that also my mother is African American, but my father is Caucasian, and so him being from South Carolina, her being from Tennessee back in the 70s. So back in that time period, as far as like interracial relationships and it being kind of taboo, I think that dynamic and just other things. My mother had good vision up until I think her 20s, and that's interesting in my whole family dynamic, and the fact that it helped my mother, our being blind, kind of knowing the journey that I would have and the skills that I would need to learn. So as a single black woman, I think that whole notion of her really having to be strong or really having to kind of hold down the household, but also her, really instilling in me how to be an advocate, how to have a voice, how to strive for independence and to be kind of better. She held me to high expectations. Particularly in the African American heritage, how disability is defined, how it is thought of, how it is talked about, how it is shown in media. And just, not everybody has knowledge of what to do. And so, people kind of go back to those stereotypes and those behaviors that are associated, like, for example, wanting to, not let someone be as independent or not, really, holding people to the same expectations.
Do you find that you had any trouble trying to navigate that space, seeing as people didn't have a great understanding of what disability was or what it meant?
Sure. I think growing up and even presently at times, I think, the clashing or the intersecting of the identities definitely show up. I think one of the things that was very fortunate for me that helped me to be able to have the skills to navigate that space was not only I had the opportunity to go into 2 different types of schools. Right? I went to a state school for the blind, and I think going from a school where I could learn the skills that I needed and the confidence to be okay with who I was, to having to go to a mainstream public school and interact with children who were not who did not have disabilities, helped me build social skills. It helped me to be able to be comfortable and share who I was and be okay with who I was in the presence of people who may not have ever met a person who was visually impaired, let alone a black person who was visually impaired. We all have multiple differences, and when interacting with people, especially our own community members, I think that we have to learn how to get beyond the element of race and really kind of enhance our understanding of all the multiple identities that we carry. What I would consider to be bad behavior, like really unwelcoming or really malicious behavior, it happens to people who identify as LGBT. It probably happens to people with other types of disabilities, or anything that goes outside of what we would probably consider a normal or typical African American culture.
Oh, that was interesting. do you feel as if you have been received in both the African American community and disability culture?
I would say yes. I think have there been some challenges and some struggles with specific individuals? I would say yes to that as well. For the most part, as a staff and faculty member working on behalf of the Multicultural Center, I think I've been able to develop some good partnerships and be able to help develop good programming. I think for the most part with the students, especially our students within our constituency.
Being on campus, do you feel like there are enough accommodations for you?
The resources are here. What gets in the way of an inclusive environment, because reasonable accommodation is a piece of the puzzle, but the environment that they are in to be inclusive. And so that means, to the best degree possible, attitudinal barriers to be free, physical barriers, technology barriers, diversity around access and inclusion, and I think we have a long way to go at this university, unfortunately.
All right, well, I appreciate you having this conversation with me.
Sure.
All right, thanks.